Hey guys, welcome back to the Erie Side Podcast with your hosts, Elena.
Sophia.
Indeed.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope that you're ready to get on the Erie side.
Okay, before we real quick get into the episode, we would just want to remind you guys that if you could go ahead and give us a follow. If you aren't already doing that, please do so. And please make sure to rate and review the show if you're enjoying us. And feel free to leave us a comment in the text box below the podcast episode if there's ever a case you're interested in, or if you ever would like to share any sort of information. We're listening. And if you have any family, friends, colleagues, whomever, a special person in your life that you think would like our true crime podcast, please feel free to share this with them as well. And if you aren't already, feel free to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as well. And we would love to see you all over there. With that, let's get into the episode today. Andrew Gosden is a British case.
For all our British listeners, this one is for you.
So let me get into Andrew's story. Andrew Paul Gosden was born on July 10th, 1993 in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, England. His parents were Kevin and Glenys Gosden. Andrew had a sister named Charlotte. The family lived in Balby, which is a suburb of Doncaster, South Yorkshire, and by all accounts, they seemed like a close family. Now, this story takes place in September of 2007, which is when Andrew was 14 years old. Andrew's family considered him to be a home bird, which I thought was cute because he really left the house without telling them where he was going, and a nickname his family called him was Roo. Kevin thought his son was a deep individual and that he was very stable and not likely to get worked up or to really be in a bad mood. However, Kevin also thought that Andrew could be a bit absent-minded and maybe vulnerable and that he was not a streetwise boy. Andrew's teachers considered him to be shy and quiet, but also mature beyond his years. Andrew had a good group of friends, but his family mentioned he didn't hang out with them outside of school and that he wasn't a loner, he just enjoyed being in his own company. Also, there were never any signs that Andrew had ever been bullied, and he never seemed sad, depressed, or distressed in any way. Andrew was also very intelligent. He was considered a gifted student, and he actually had a 100% attendance record at the Macaulay Catholic High School, which to me makes it seem like he behaved, at least to some extent, to have that kind of track record. It doesn't appear that he got into any trouble in school. And because Andrew was so gifted, he was in the Young, Gifted, and Talented program, which was focused on helping the top 5% of school performers further their educational development. And because of how smart Andrew was, he was expected to go far academically, and some described him as an award-winning mathematician that was destined to go to Cambridge University. But funny enough, even though he performed really well, he was said to have a neutral attitude about school, and was hoping the next school term would be more challenging since the previous one was so easy to him. So it seemed like Andrew was a little natural genius and didn't really think much about it. But he seemed to want to learn for the sake of learning, but at the same time, he didn't share much about his school life to his parents. I think it was more so that he did well in school without trying, and that was basically it. I know 2 summers before he disappeared, he was in a gifted summer program, and was really excited about what he was able to do and learn in the program, but was the kind of kid that still chose to lead a balanced life between schoolwork and other parts of his life, like family, video games, and listening to metal bands, actually. Andrew's parents were Anglican Christians, but didn't want to force their children to share their same views, so they never baptized them. And 18 months before Andrew's disappearance, he had not gone to church. I don't really know if that's significant or not, because it could have just been he realized that was not something he wanted to partake in anymore. Andrew had also been a Cub Scout, but decided to leave the group a few months before his disappearance. So let's go to September 14th, 2007. Andrew is 14 years old, but he looks much younger than that, actually. In my opinion, you could definitely mistake him for a 12-year-old. Andrew was 5 feet, 3 inches tall, wore glasses. He was deaf in his left ear and had a double ridge on his right ear that's distinctive enough for people to identify Andrew with after he goes missing. He had light brown hair when he went missing, but he was going to dye it black before he ended up disappearing. And at this point, September 14th, he's 8 days into the new school year after coming back from summer holiday. Leading up to his disappearance, Andrew's parents note that he actually broke his normal routine twice. He chose to walk home from school instead of taking the bus, which meant that he had to walk about an hour and 20 minutes to get back home from school, since the school was 4 miles away. Nothing more said about this. Like, I couldn't find anywhere whether his parents said he returned home when they expected, or whether it took longer than what they really thought it should have taken for him to walk home. I don't know if it's just he decided to walk home those days, or...
Nothing that they addressed it with him either as to why you're walking home?
No, I don't think so. My impression of the parents is that they loved their children, and that Andrew and his sister Charlotte seemed to behave, and they wanted to give them independence too. But they just seemed like really good kids anyways, and like they didn't really have to...
Did any of his friends know why he didn't walk home that day, or did they talk about it, or maybe they were with them or something like that?
No, but some people have, this is on Reddit, but, and again, everything that I've read is a grain of salt, but taken with a grain of salt, but they make a good theory, and that is, it could be that Andrew did not take the bus because maybe he was being bullied. Why would a kid not want to take the bus home? Well, if they're being bullied, that would definitely make you want to walk home rather than take the bus. Or he just wanted to have some more independence. I think when you're a kid and you're used to that routine, and he's 14 now, so he's getting older. I mean, it might have been exciting to walk home rather than just take the bus. I definitely wanted to know more about these walks because given that he's about to disappear and they're out of his normal routine, I wanted to know if him walking home twice right before he disappears is any way connected to his actual disappearance. Now, the day before Andrew disappears was pretty normal and not very remarkable. The family ate dinner and then washed dishes. Andrew then spent over an hour doing a jigsaw puzzle on the computer with his father, and then he watched comedy shows on the TV with his mom. Now, according to the family, this was not an unusual way at all for them to spend an evening, so it was a pretty typical evening for them to spend. The following morning, Andrew's mom, Glennis, noted that he usually woke up pretty easily, but this morning it was very hard for him to get up on time, and that he was irritable. But nevertheless, she sent him off to school like she always did, and it seemed like a normal day to her and Kevin. Then that evening, Andrew's parents and his sister Charlotte had dinner at their house with a family friend. They hadn't seen Andrew, but they just assumed he was either in the converted cellar playing video games or in his room doing homework. After a while, they went to check on him, but found he was nowhere in the house, so they thought he was probably with a friend or a neighbor and had lost track of time. So they call his friends, and they're like, "Hey, is Andrew there?" And his friends tell them, "No, Andrew's not with us. And also, he wasn't even at school today." And when his parents hear that he never made it to school, that's when they go into complete panic mode and think, okay, something has to have had to happen to him on his way to school. But what they didn't realize at first is not only did Andrew not show up to school, but he never even tried to go to school. And that is what made them very worried. So let's pause right there. What do you think of Andrew so far based on what I've told you? And what do you think is going on?
I don't understand. What do they mean he didn't try to go to school? Like, he didn't wake up? He didn't get on the bus? What is that supposed to mean?
I'll get into that. They're able to trace some of his footsteps or his moves afterwards, and he never even tried to go to school.
Okay.
And so when they end up finding that out, that makes them very worried.
So he didn't try to go to school, and that was like...
I guess to them, that was even more concerning. For me, if I was a parent, I would think, okay, well, I mean, nobody took him initially, right? So I would be, I don't know. I think it would be, I'd be more concerned if he did try to go to school and was sabotaged that from going to school rather than he chose not to. But maybe because they're so used to him always being a good rule follower that seeing that was definitely a bit alarming.
Out of the ordinary, yeah.
Yeah. So once Andrew's family finds out he's missing and never made it to school, Charlotte and Kevin go through Andrew's school route and the nearby areas, but don't find anything. Andrew's family and friends continue to search the area until it gets dark, and the family actually moved pretty quick because just 3 hours after they realized Andrew was gone, they were already passing out missing persons leaflets. Now, let's go through Andrew's steps that morning. At 8:05 a.m., Andrew leaves his house and walks across Westfield Park to his normal bus stop. A family friend, Reverend Alan Murray, was sitting on a bench in the park and saw Andrew walk to the bus stop. However, instead of Andrew getting on the school bus like he normally would every school day, he instead walks to a cash machine and withdraws 200 pounds from his bank account. Andrew had 214 pounds in his bank account, but he couldn't take the full amount because the ATM would only let him withdraw in 20-pound increments, so he was capped at 200 pounds. After Andrew gets some cash, a CCTV system from a neighbor's house takes footage of him returning back to his own house. It's not explicitly stated, but at this point, I don't think there's anyone else in the house besides himself. Andrew puts his school uniform into the washing machine and puts his blazer on the back of his chair. He changes into casual clothes and wears a black Slipknot t-shirt. Slipknot is a metal band, by the way. We know Andrew loves his metal music, so that's pretty on par for him. He also changes into black jeans and takes a bag that's been decorated with various patches of rock and metal bands. He's also wearing a watch on his left wrist, and he leaves wearing athletic shoes. Andrew makes sure to bring with him his wallet, his keys, and his PlayStation portable console. We know this because of CCTV footage, witness sightings, and because of his movements we can track later.
That's interesting.
Other than what I listed, it doesn't seem like he took any other possessions with him, and he also did not take his passport.
How about his phone?
So he doesn't have a phone, and we will get into that. But yeah, he doesn't have a phone. He's not really a phone person. The thing is, every single phone his parents gets him, he's so not interested in it, he ends up losing it. And they're like, oh, we'll buy it for you. He'll be like, he told them last time he lost it. No, I wouldn't rather you buy me a phone. I'd just rather I get another Xbox, I think it was. So he's not very social and into the phones and all of that, which, I mean, it makes it even more confusing when he goes missing because he's not somebody who's into stuff like that. That's what's tricky. Kevin mentioned that it didn't seem like Andrew had taken a sweatshirt or a coat, and he also noted that he hadn't taken the charger for his PlayStation. In Andrew's case, the fact that he didn't take the charger for his PlayStation makes me think he expected to be back at some point.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Because if you're going to go away, I mean, he's 14. You know at 14 that you need to bring your cord. So if he's not, either he's going somewhere that he knows he can charge it or he plans on coming back.
Right. And but if he's going somewhere where is he going to be able to charge it, though? Somebody would have to have a charger.
Well, yeah. I mean, unless he thinks he's going to go to like a friend's house or something like that and something goes wrong or someone's like, oh, it's okay. I don't know. He just knows that person has their own version, so it has their own charger, or he's just planning on coming back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's just like, I just feel like as a teenager, I would not, someone who's so focused on that, even so that he doesn't even want a phone.
Yeah.
It seems like this is something that he would have brought if he was going to be going away for a while.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you that he definitely thought that he had enough juice until he would need to charge it next time. Andrew also left 100 pounds in cash that he had saved from birthdays. And, if Andrew was hypothetically leaving for good and running away, you would expect him to take that unless he forgot that he had cash laying around from his birthdays. Given that he's young, I think it'd be harder for him to forget that he has that cash because, he doesn't have a job. That's the only cash he has. But I think it's possible for him to have forgotten that he even had it. Then at 8:30 a.m., Andrew leaves his house and walks down Littlemore Lane towards Westfield Park, which can be seen on a neighbor's CCTV footage. From there, he walks to Doncaster railway station and buys a one-way ticket to London. This ticket cost him £31 and 40 pence, is I think how you call it. Now, the ticket seller says that she tried to sell Andrew a return ticket because it costs just 50 pence more, which is along the same lines of about 50 US cents, but it's a little cheaper in UK money. But I make the comparison because around 50 pence is less than a pound, which is less than $1. So it would have been super cheap, like almost nothing for him to add on a return ticket. So why he didn't go from £31 and 40 pence to £31 and 90 pence for a return ticket is really odd. I mean, it makes this case so much more interesting because it makes people wonder if he didn't have plans to return home Like maybe he didn't have plans to return home, or did he expect to come home another way? Andrew's father also said that it didn't seem weird to him that Andrew had only bought a one-way ticket because he knew many people in London, including family members with whom he could have stayed with. And I guess if he's doing something and is expecting that he's going to have to ask forgiveness from, rather than permission, he may assume that once the jig is up, his parents are going to have to come and pick him up and take him back rather than allowing him to take the train back. So I'm thinking maybe he's going into London just to let loose for whatever reason. He takes the train there, but he knows eventually his parents are going to find out, and then they may not even want him to take the train back. They may just drive to London and pick him up himself. But you made a good point about the charger thing. If he's got aunts, uncles, and grandparents in London, his dad said he maybe thought that he was going to stay with them. But if he had gone there to stay with them, I mean, would they have a charger for his PlayStation? And wouldn't he have to come back home at some point with the train? Or there's just a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, I mean, unless you said it was grandparents and cousins or uncles or something. Because if it's
aunts, uncles, family, friends.
Because if it's aunts and uncles, maybe he has cousins his age that he knows also have a charger. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe he knew that his parents would be you just stay there. I'm going to come and pick you up. So that's why he didn't, like you said, he didn't buy the ticket. And then he knew he could just chill at an aunt and uncle's and play with his PlayStation until then. Or what was it, a PlayStation?
Yeah, it was a portable PlayStation console. So
I don't know. Maybe if he knew once they find out they were going to have him go to stay somewhere until then. You know what I mean? Maybe an aunt's and uncle's house, and he would just chill with his cousins.
Yeah, depending on what kind of ticket he bought, and I'm not sure. There are some tickets in London where if you buy the return ticket, you can return back, on your round trip ticket at any off-peak times, which I think is any time that's not as busy on any day for the next 30 days. I'm not sure that's the ticket he bought, but it just would be weird that he didn't buy it, the return ticket. But I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking in his mind. At 9:35 a.m., Andrew boards the train to King's Cross Station, and he's alone when he does this. No one is traveling with him at this point. A woman sits next to Andrew on the train and says that he was very quiet and very much engaged in playing his video game. So now we see him making use of his PlayStation. It's something for him to do on the train, and he doesn't need a charger for it. His school does realize during morning lessons that Andrew is missing, and they thought they had contacted his parents and left a message letting them know he was not in school. But it's now believed the school dialed the wrong number and called the parents of the child listed either below or above Andrew in the register, which meant the message was left on the wrong person's phone.
Wow.
Yeah, that really bothered me. I'm you're talking about children's lives here, and you're making such a crucial mistake. And also, I know you left a voicemail for the parents, but I feel like after a few hours pass, you need to contact them and be like, hello, is everything okay?
What I'm shocked is, why didn't the person who they left the voicemail to call them back and be like, wait, what are you talking about? My kid is in school.
Unless they left it on the home machine maybe, and the parents didn't get it until much later. I don't know, but That's a good point too. By 11:20 a.m., Andrew had arrived at King's Cross Station, and CCTV shows him leaving the main entrance of the station at 11:25 a.m. And unfortunately, this would be the last confirmed sighting of Andrew. When you think about it, Andrew choosing not to go to school that morning is him breaking his 100% perfect attendance record, which is definitely unusual for him. A few days after Andrew disappears, Andrew's family visits London and passes out flyers and posters anywhere they think Andrew may have interest in going, such as museums. Andrew had enjoyed visiting London's museums and exhibitions, so the family thought maybe that's what he had done. And at this point, because the last sighting of Andrew was at King's Cross, the investigation switched gears to theorize why Andrew would even go to London. His family thought that Andrew might have gone to London to sightsee, because in the past, he would visit London with his family to see his grandparents, aunt, uncles, and family friends who lived there, and Andrew actually enjoyed London. One thing I wanted to mention is the summer before he disappeared, because he had just started school in September, Andrew's parents had wanted him to travel to London by himself to visit his grandmother, but he didn't want to, so he didn't go. My first thought is that that could be really strange that he didn't visit, because he could have essentially been doing whatever he's doing now, but his parents are aware of it. I'm wondering if maybe he didn't go to London to explore in the summer, maybe because he didn't want to visit his grandmother, because staying with her, I would think, would give him plenty of opportunities to explore London, unless he didn't think he'd receive the kind of freedom he wanted to have to explore London, because remember, he is 14 years old. But maybe he didn't think his grandmother would let him explore London on his own, and he didn't want to explore London or to stay in London with his grandmother, and that's why he didn't take the opportunity to visit London in the summer. But I thought it was just interesting and potentially weird that he did not take the opportunity to visit London during that summer when he, had a chance to, and his parents were on board with it. What do you guys think?
So let me just understand. They have been able to at least pinpoint, either with video, that this is where they've seen him. Like they saw him get on the train, get off the train at King's Crossing, correct?
Yes. So they saw him get on the train and get off at the train station at King's Cross. So that's the last time they're able to pinpoint him.
And that's the last video they have of him?
Yes, and his family actually is bothered that the police didn't try to get more video, especially because, I'm going to get into it, but I don't think they got the video from next to the train station or the tube that was by the train station, and that bothered his parents. And there were some sightings of him potentially at a Pizza Hut too, an hour away, and they also never got the CCTV footage from that. So could have been more video of him on CCTV, but, the police never went to search for it. So that is an issue the family has with the investigation.
They have him going in the train and coming out, right?
Right.
And nothing afterwards, and nothing in the train station? Or do they have pictures from the train station? Did the police get those?
I think they saw him, I think the last time they saw him was, didn't I say it was leaving the main entrance of the station? That's the last clip they have of him on CCTV.
Okay.
So he was at the train station.
I know you said that he had an option to go to his grandmother's and he chose not to. And then he obviously made that decision again now for himself. I feel like something might have happened that made him change his reasoning to go. Like he now had something happen now that made him decide, you know what, actually, I think I am going to go. And I wonder if he was meeting up with someone. Not necessarily saying the person had a fault in his disappearance, but I think it's possible that he could have maybe gone to meet up with someone, and then some other person saw him there he was a victim of opportunity, which I know is rare, but it's possible that he could have been meeting up with someone, I feel, which is the reason why now he's deciding to go into the city, and that person kidnapped him, or something happened and someone saw him there while he's meeting up with, say, a friend or something, and he was just a victim of opportunity.
You're going to say something, Mom?
No, I just like to hear the rest of the story. I want to see where we're going here.
Yeah, and as for, it's really hard to think that he was going to meet with somebody, because as we're going to get into, they don't find any record of that, but I'll continue on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But Heaven says that when Andrew's sister Charlotte was 14, she went to London to hand out CVs, which is like a resume, in order to gain some work experience. So he thought maybe that's why Andrew was to try and find work. But as far as we know, he didn't bring any CVs. Kevin also mentioned that there had been a YouTube gathering going on in London, and that maybe Andrew had wanted to go to London for that reason, but there's no indication that Andrew ever went to this event or that he had any interest in YouTube. Andrew's family considered that maybe Andrew had gone to London to attend a music concert. The night of his disappearance, 30 Seconds to Mars, which is an American rock band, played at the Brixton Academy, although at that point it was called the Carling Academy. The sixth band was a British metal band, and we know Andrew loved metal. They played, in addition to 30 Seconds to Mars, they also played a rescheduled farewell show at the Carling Academy that night. Some people think the Carling Academy venue is within walking distance from King's Cross Station, but it's a 2-hour walk, which for me is not walking distance. But even so, Andrew walked an hour and 20 minutes from his school to his home, so I'm sure Andrew could have walked to Carling Academy or found transportation to the show. The sixth show was originally scheduled for 4 p.m. on July 7th, And it was going to be the last show with the original vocalist. So that made this performance very special, which could be why Andrew wanted to attend. Mick Neville, who was the retired head of the Metropolitan Police's Central Images Unit, believed this sick band theory was credible. He asked that anyone with photos or videos taken at the concert to come forward so that they could scan the images. Now, while Andrew was a fan of similar metal bands, there was no evidence that he attended these shows or that he liked these bands, these specific bands, 30 Seconds to Mars and Stick. There is a picture of the crowd at the 30 Seconds to Mars concert that someone sent in. And in this picture, there is a boy who looks like Andrew. Some people think it could be him, but I personally think you can't tell for sure. I'm not inclined to think that it is him. So, because for sure, we can't say for sure that he was at this concert.
So they don't really know if he was at the concert, and it could have been a concert he really wanted to go. Would it be a concert that his parents would not support him going?
I don't know. They seemed really supportive overall, and the more I hear about them, the more I think they would have supported it. I don't know if it's because he maybe wanted to do something on his own and experience freedom, or maybe because it was on a school night and he didn't think they would say yes to it. I don't think he ever asked them because they never mentioned him mentioning that band.
It sounds a little unusual. Like, do they have proof he got a ticket to go in? Anything, like online or from a friend or anything? It just, he just showed up without a ticket, or?
That's the thing. And I don't know if he could have bought a ticket there, but he didn't even have, and I was going to go into it, but he didn't even have a computer. The only computer in his house was his sister's laptop, but she only had that for 8 weeks before he disappeared. And she said Andrew did not seem interested in at all with the computer. They even took all his school computers and the library computers just to see if they could find anything about him, or maybe that he had used one of those computers, and they found nothing. So it's hard for me to think that if he had bought a ticket to one of those bands on those computers, they would have been like, okay, he probably did go, and it probably is him in the picture because look, here's this ticket he bought on the school library or something along those lines. But they didn't find that. And he didn't use the phone. He didn't really seem interested in a computer. How is he going to buy that ticket or even know about the concert playing is my question.
Well, concert playing, if you're in school and people are talking about it, you learn.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he learned about it that way. I don't know. Maybe there were tickets he could buy in person, or he was hoping he could find one if he went there.
Maybe he went there trying to get in, and then he's 14, maybe he didn't think that far ahead, and he was like, oh shoot, I don't have a ticket. Turned around, and then something happened.
That's what I was thinking, but he's gifted. He's very smart.
That's true.
Maybe he's not streetwise. I think his father said he's not streetwise, so maybe he didn't think about it in that sense.
Or maybe he just thought he could buy a ticket there. That's why he pulled out the money, and then he didn't realize, actually this place doesn't have anything you could buy in person. It's all online.
But maybe he did get in. You don't know.
True.
Kevin thinks his son could have maybe gone to London to do something where he thought it would be easier to ask for forgiveness for rather than seek permission, like maybe going to the concert or the art museum. Another possibility the police investigated is whether Andrew could have traveled to London to meet someone, maybe even someone he met online. Now, if you remember, Andrew had a hard time waking up the morning of his disappearance, which his mother said wasn't normal. So my first thought is maybe he was communicating with somebody late at night about meeting the next day, and maybe he didn't get enough sleep because of that and had a hard time waking up in the morning. And that was what my first thought was. But the difficult part with this theory is that it was hard to connect Andrew being in communication with anyone. There's really no evidence to indicate this. Andrew, like I said, didn't really use a computer, and his sister said Andrew did not seem interested in social media or in connecting with other people on the internet. She actually said that he didn't seem social. Andrew didn't have an email address, and he had never set up an online account with either his Xbox or his PlayStation.
They would be able to find that out if he had done something hidden, unless he went on the black web or something. But even at that point, if they thought something, they could have found it.
Yeah, and I doubt he knows how to do that 14.
I mean, he is gifted and talented,
Yeah,
but like
but come
he's
on.
not. He doesn't seem like he's into those technologies. Like,
It's definitely hard. I feel like that's just something that
I don't think it's as likely either. But police actually sent Andrew's PlayStation serial number to Sony's headquarters, but Sony found that there was no record of an account being set up and that there was no two-way communication that happened on the PlayStation at all. His PlayStation had a DNAS authentication system that allowed Sony to see when it connected to the internet, but I'm assuming that it never did after Andrew used it on the train because it's not mentioned that it ever connected to the internet.
Did it connect while he was on the train?
I don't know. Even that I don't know, but they don't mention it. You know, if it did, they may not have wanted to mention it, but I guess it was 2007, so I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't even connect on the train. The police even took, like I mentioned, the computers from Andrew's school and Doncaster Library, but their digital forensic investigations found no trace of any activity by Andrew. Now, hearing all of this, it makes it really hard for me to believe he had been in contact with someone and was planning to meet with somebody, since he didn't seem to be a very social person. Now, of course, just because there's not a trace doesn't mean Andrew couldn't have found a way to communicate with somebody, whether it be with a burner phone or something along those lines with a device he could have bought himself. However, it should be noted that Andrew actually owned a couple of mobile phones when he was 10 to 12. Like I mentioned, he really used them, and because he really used them, he lost them. He did get a new phone for his 12th birthday that he really used, but didn't even want to replace it when he lost it, which was just months before his disappearance. And like I said, when they said they could replace it, he was like, I'd rather you not replace it and I just get a new Xbox. So Andrew just did not seem very interested in meeting new people online or even in person. And I myself am having a hard time believing he went to London to meet someone, but you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting.
Also, if you remember, in the week before he disappeared, he walked home from school instead of taking the bus. And because some people theorize, maybe he did that because he was getting bullied. Some people say if he was getting bullied, is it possible he went to London to commit suicide? Which then you have to ask the question, well, why would he go to London for something like that? Did he want to visit it one last time? Why would he go to London for something like that? And how have they not found his body yet, if that was the case? This theory is not something I personally find as likely, but some have mentioned it, so I wanted to include it in case it is possible. A few other theories Kevin has put out there is that did Andrew, and he's not saying these are likely, but he's just trying to take every single guess, just to really try and figure out what happened to Andrew. And so he's like, did Andrew leave to maybe go and reinvent himself? Did he run away? But Andrew doesn't fit the typical runaway profile. He was gifted. He came from a good family. Kevin also wonders, did Andrew leave because he had something that was bothering him and that he felt he couldn't share with him and his wife? But at the end of the day, Kevin thinks Andrew's disappearance was very spontaneous, and that's personally where I'm leaning as well. But if Andrew did take a spontaneous trip to London to maybe visit or explore, why didn't he return home? What happened to Andrew? Now, of course, we sadly have to consider that Andrew may have been taken by a predator and could have even been trafficked. With that, what theory do you guys lean more into? Like, what are you thinking right now?
Well, what if he's been acting a little different in the past few weeks?
True.
What if a mental illness was kicking in? Because at certain ages it kicks in. It doesn't always have to kick in when they're close to 18 or 16. I mean, they have incidents, and he's been either trying to handle it himself, trying to figure it out, or not. Did they even think about that?
No one's actually mentioned that, but that is a good point that you bring up. Because if he had crossed over into not being very coherent or thinking straight, it could be he just didn't even think or know how to find his way back home. Or somebody took advantage of him in that position. And that, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he could keep walking and leave even, England and go to the rest of Europe.
But he doesn't have his passport.
You don't need it. Well, back then you didn't need it if they were part of the EU. It just sounds something couldn't have happened to him and someone picked up and hurt him or something. But I'm just saying, what if? But then again, where is he then? He is missing.
Yeah, it's sad and it's concerning.
I feel like it's probably just like he just it was a victim of opportunity, and he just happened to pass by the wrong person. at the wrong time, because any of these other options, I feel like, would have resulted in them finding him in some way, shape, or form. Like, even if he, like you said, if he had committed suicide, they would have most likely found him. If he had some sort of mental incident or break, I feel like they would still be able to find the body, because he's a kid. He can't really get that far. I feel like they would have found him otherwise. So that's why I feel like someone else took him, and that's why they can't find him.
So why do you think he went to London?
I mean, it's not completely out of the realm that he did have some sort of connection to somebody and they made a decision to go and meet up, or he just went on his own and just because he wanted, I don't know, some independence and was feeling older and he just wanted to explore London by himself. I mean, it's all possible.
But you actually think he was able to connect with somebody online, even though there's no proof of that?
I mean, it's possible if, like, through his Xbox.
Yeah.
Or PlayStation, right, whatever it's called.
Can't you connect with people on PlayStation?
But they said they didn't find any signs that an online account had ever been connected.
But wait, how did he ever play on his PlayStation?
You just put the game in and you can play it.
Oh, but he still never made an account.
He never made an account.
Does that mean that he cannot play with other people because of that?
I think so, and I also think it means he can't communicate with somebody. I don't know. I poke holes in that theory that he was communicating with somebody.
Maybe it wasn't through his Xbox. I mean, maybe it could be through school. Someone I don't know, or somehow, some way, someone got in touch with him and gave him a burner phone.
Like somebody he met maybe on one of his walks home.
Yeah, and then they were like, hey, here's this burner phone. Like, you don't have to use it that often, but this is just how I'm going to communicate with you. You know, we're going to take you to the city. You could explore like an adult.
I don't know if that really fits him.
I know that doesn't fit him too well either, but I'm just saying if he was there to meet someone, that's how I would assume it happened. But I don't think he was there to meet someone. I think it might have just been it's just wrong place, wrong time. So I personally don't think he was going to meet someone, but I don't know what he was there for. And I just think someone happened to see him and took advantage of that.
He could have had a mental break. Because he was acting a little strange.
Yeah, but I feel like they would still find him.
The mental break only explains him, a little behavior beforehand. Him being tired, not wanting to go to school, not going to school, and then getting on the train and going to London. What happened afterwards, though? It could be he was taken advantage of.
Oh, I see. So you're saying the reason why he was there was because of the mental issues, and then someone took advantage?
Right. I'm saying that's a theory. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
I could definitely see that for sure. I could see that too. I don't know for sure if I'm leaning like one way or another. It's just kind of difficult because maybe he was getting bullied and he stopped taking the bus because of that, and then he just didn't want to go to school one day, and he said, why go to school and get bullied when I can go to London and just explore and sightsee?
Yeah, that's also another theory.
Right, and then something happened and someone saw him unattended and took him.
Correct. The theory as to why he ended up where he did in London.
That's the question.
He is a young kid. He may be trying to figure out what he could get away with. Mm-hmm. And then,
he's getting older too. He's 14. Maybe he's trying to become more independent, and maybe he's like, you know what, I saw my friend go and do this. Like, maybe I should start doing that too.
He's also bored in school.
Right.
I can see him wanting to go and do something on his own. There was something going on, though, that his parents noticed a different change in behavior.
Right, which is why I wonder maybe he started talking to someone. And I wonder if he had any Xbox or PlayStation games that his parents did not buy him.
That he bought for himself, you're saying?
Or that someone bought for him.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's because I would assume that's how that would be the end with him. It would be through video games, not through phone.
Right.
Not through social media. So that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it could be someone who saw him at the store and was like, oh, I'll buy you this game, or somehow talk to him about games and then build up a trust through there.
Whatever the reason, he went to the bank to get money out. So it wasn't someone he knew that there was going to meet him in London and would say, let's just say a teacher or something, and say, here's some money. Usually they also give you money to meet that.
That's true. They're usually like, oh, they'll pay for whatever.
Right. He did this on his own. But then again, you never know.
Unless the person told him, like, do you have money? Yes, okay, use that to get the ticket so that they couldn't. So that way it's not like someone else, but I don't know.
The thing is, that he is recorded that he was in the train station all by himself. It'd be interesting, and they have him going a few other pictures walking away and out. If someone really staged this, they must have known exactly where there weren't any cameras.
And that's why some people think it could have been trafficking by professionals.
But I feel like that's a lot of extra work for professionals. Wouldn't they just take high-risk victims?
Usually, but maybe he wasn't, like, because they don't have footage of him, maybe he was trafficked. Like, they stumbled upon him. Because he's 14, but he looks really like he's 12. So they saw him walking alone, and they were like, this is the perfect victim opportunity.
However, some of these victims do survive and come out, and to this day, they've not found him.
Right.
So if that happened and he hasn't come back to his family or whatever, I mean, he may be dead. So that means that went really bad. But it could also been someone who's interested in him for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a possibility that the reason why he got abducted, if he got abducted, there's a possibility that the reason why he got abducted and the reason why he was there in the first place could not be related entirely.
That's true.
And then I think it's possible that also maybe the person could have tried to lure him out in some way and like build up trust through, like I said, like video games or something like that, through school, whatever. And was like, hey, I'm going to be here. I want you, like, let's meet here, find a way to get here. And he was like, yeah, no, I could do that. Like, I can pull out my money and I can go buy a ticket or something like that. Or he was going he had mental illness, or he wanted to get his independence. Like, I know I mentioned earlier, maybe he saw his friends doing stuff and he was like, like, you guys are going and you're doing this. I think I'm old enough to start doing that. And then something happened.
This doesn't sound planned to me because he didn't wake up. Because he could have woke up, pretend to go to school and to go do what he did. Instead, he was late, he was miserable, or whatever his mother said. He got dressed, went to the bank, came back. It just seemed like...
She wakes him up every day, so what does he need to do? It sounded like she woke him up every day.
I don't know if she woke him up or that he was late and she went to see why he wasn't up. I didn't understand
why
that.
Why do you think he was tired?
Okay. I don't know.
I wonder if that's connected or not.
This one is very not clear.
I know. It bothers me because I want to know so bad. But let's talk briefly about how the police handled the investigation. Andrew's family did not like that. Initially, police decided to focus on investigating the family instead of looking into the CCTV footage beyond just that at King's Cross Station. Kevin thought the police saw him as a suspect at first and says they did illegal recorded interviews with him where they pressured him in hopes of getting him to reveal why his son disappeared. Eventually, though, Kevin and his family were cleared with the police. Andrew's family is angry that the police never looked at CCTV footage from the buses and nearby tube station, as well as that sightings of Andrew at the Pizza Hut and Covent Garden were never followed up. And now is a good time to go over the sightings of Andrew. Of course, when someone goes missing, there can be a lot of sightings with very little or reliable or valuable information, but I still think it's important to mention them. There had been 122 potential sightings of Andrew in Britain when he first went missing.
Wow.
With most of them coming from London. Kevin says there were a few sightings within the week that Andrew disappeared that seemed credible due to how Andrew supposedly talked to these witnesses. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but that's all he said. One sighting was Andrew at the Pizza Hut on the day he went missing, which was an hour away from King's Cross Station, but the family says this lead was never investigated by the police, like I mentioned earlier. In the days that followed, there were potential sightings of Andrew sleeping in a park, getting off a train, or walking on the street, all of these being in London. After a month after Andrew disappeared, one woman saw a boy who looked like Andrew and told him he looked like Andrew, but he denied that he was actually Andrew. It took police 2 weeks to follow up with her, and in the years since, sightings of Andrew have continued to happen, but police don't follow up with them.
Why not?
I don't think they take the sightings seriously.
So, like, it's still an ongoing investigation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you think that eventually somebody, a lot of times, older cases, especially like from unsolved mysteries, they solve them because people see the photographs and then they're like, hey,
right.
I'm sure most of them are not. I mean, I would hope, because if they are, most of them are not valid, because if they are and the police is not following up with them, that would be terrible. But
yeah,
all you need is one of them to be accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's true that they did see him, that means he was alive for a few days afterwards.
Right. But the thing is, we don't know. Sightings happen all the time when somebody goes missing, so I don't know how much credibility we can give to them.
Right. Him sleeping in the park sounds realistic, though.
Actually, it does.
Oh, wait, do the police still see this as a missing person or as a runaway?
I think a missing person is runaway to them. I'm not sure, but I think they still think he's alive.
Because if they see it as a runaway, they put less effort into it.
And that's what I'm thinking, is they see it as a runaway due to the lack of effort they're putting into it. I'll get into it. They've done some work since, but I think they could be doing more, in my opinion.
How old would he be right now if he was still alive?
Ooh, I think he would be 30 or 31.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he'd be a lot older than I thought.
31, because his birthday would have just passed July 10th.
They think he's still alive.
They do.
Now.
Yes, because as recently as September 2017, police tried to find some new information. They actually investigated requests for similar optical prescriptions to Andrew's, but I don't think anything came from that. I don't know how realistic that is, because I've worn glasses and my prescription has still continued to change from when I was 14. So, I mean, I guess that's something, but I don't know how helpful that actually is. And they haven't yet made a match with Andrew's DNA, fingerprints, or dental and health records. They still keep those around and test against them, but nothing's ever come up. That's what they've been doing since. But a year after Andrew's disappearance, the head teacher at Macaulay Catholic High School, Mary Lawrence, traveled to London with staff and students and passed out 15,000 leaflets. Then in November of 2008, a man visited the Leo Minster police station in Herefordshire, West Midlands, and used the intercom system to talk to a police officer. And he said that he had information about Andrew. However, this was in the evening and the intercom system was in use and there wasn't anyone staffing the intercom. By the time an officer arrived to take the details, the man had left. Police later asked for him to get back in touch, I think via the news, and someone who claimed to be the man wrote anonymously to the BBC after it featured Andrew's case on The One Show, which is a British television magazine and chat show program. He gave details of a possible sighting of Andrew Gosden in Shrewsbury in November of 2008, but it's not confirmed that this was the same man who had come into the police station, and if so, why didn't he just wait there? In November of 2009, Kevin actually appealed to the gay community to help find his son. Andrew's family considered the possibility that Andrew could have been struggling with his sexual orientation, and they realized that children who are gay or lesbian are much more likely to run away than those who are heterosexual. Kevin said, "We are a pretty open family, so have wondered if he was gay or struggling with his sexual identity and found it too awkward to raise. If he is gay, we do not have any issue with it. He is loved unconditionally by both my wife and I and his sister." I think this is an interesting theory that Kevin wonders. Some people have potentially put out, was he going to meet somebody, and is it related to potentially struggling with a sexual identity? I don't know, but you could add it to the long list of theories that we've acquired here. But in May 2011, the family paid a private company to conduct a sonar search of the River Thames using the same technology that is used to locate victims and objects at sea. No trace of Andrew was found during the search, but believe it or not, they actually did find another body.
Not surprising.
Yeah, but I'm glad somebody was able to hopefully get closure. In June 2018, Andrew's family made it public that someone had an online conversation with the person who had the username Andy Rue, who claimed that their boyfriend had left them and they needed £200 to cover rent. And as you remember, Rue was Andrew's nickname. When someone offered to send them money, the user claimed they did not have a bank account as they had left home when they were 14. This was investigated by police, but the person was not identified. And honestly, I think this could be a sick prank, so I personally don't put much stock into it, but I don't know what to think of it. Andrew's family have kept his room as he left it, and they have not changed the locks on the house since Andrew took his key with him. So in case he comes home, that's why they're leaving the locks the same. Andrew's bank account has not been used since he made that withdrawal on the morning of his disappearance. Then on December 8th of 2021, detectives arrested two men aged 38 and 45 on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking based off of an anonymous tip. The older man's arrest was also connected with child porn. Both men were released under investigation while the investigation continued, and they were being investigated for Andrew's case too. I don't know why they were being investigated for Andrew's case, I just know that they were. They are believed to be the first arrests made in connection to Andrew's disappearance, which was a huge deal at the time. Numerous devices had been seized from the men for forensic investigation, which police said could take 6 months to a year to analyze. In January 2023, South Yorkshire police said that the men remained under investigation and that the subsequent devices were also still under examination. But then in September 2023, it was reported that both men had been released without charge and that they were not involved in Andrew's disappearance, which unfortunately leads us back to square one.
Did they not get charged for what they did have on their phone?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what happened in relation to that case.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I would hope so.
I would too, right?
Yeah.
But who knows what they had and didn't have. Anyways, Andrew Gosden was 14 years old when he disappeared from King's Cross Station in London, and he has been missing now for just about 17 years. Age-progressed photos of Andrew have been shared with the public, and if you know anything about Andrew's disappearance, please come forward to the London police. Thank you all for listening, and we hope you stay on the airy side. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.